2025 has truly been the year of the indie. We've had debut games from first-time studios like Sandfall Interactive's Clair Obscur Expedition 33 take the gaming world by storm. We've seen games from solo developers garner massive success, such as the drug-dealing game Schedule 1, a game made by one Australian dude named Tyler, which reached an all-time peak of 455,000 concurrent players on Steam, numbers that many AAA games with massive budgets fail to ever achieve. We've seen games that encourage teamwork and co-op play like Peak go absolutely gangbusters. It's mostly just a game designed around having a good time with your friends. And of course, we also had a title that's been anticipated for over half a decade in Hollow Knight Silksong finally being released in the big 2025. It's an incredible game made by Team Cherry, which is a small indie studio out of Adelaide. I've put over 100 hours into Silksong, which is a ton of content for any video game, and yet it was made by only 3 people. The love and care and attention to detail in that game is immense, and I plan on going back to it in the future to beat it again and again in new ways. The replayability of that game is crazy, as there's still so much that I haven't done and I still want to do. The only thing keeping me from doing it is the sheer scale of other high-quality indie games out there this year. Just last month, I finally dove into Hades 1, and I've just picked up Hades 2. I have over 120 hours in Hades, and I thought, well, no way can the second game be better than the first. But after about 10 hours with the second game, I'm just as hooked as the first time around. Maybe even more so because I've always been partial to spellcasting, and this game does lean more into magic than the first. And then we have AA studios who are not really considered indie studios, but they are putting out high quality games that are making the AAA behemoths blush. The main one that comes to mind is Embark Studios. They started out as an indie studio of about 50 people in 2018, and now they employ around 350 people. But they're putting out some absolute heat. They were founded by former DICE employees and made the hit FPS online multiplayer game The Finals. That game peaked around 240,000 players on Steam and still has a decent player base of around 10,000 daily concurrents. Everyone who has played the game raves about how awesome it is, but it never quite became mainstream enough to challenge the two juggernauts in the online FPS space, being Call of Duty and Battlefield. But that didn't deter Embark. They released Arc Raiders this year, and the reception has been overwhelmingly positive. They reach an all-time peak of almost 460,000 concurrent players on Steam, but what is unique about this is they did it on the 4th weekend after launch. Most games come hot out the gate, hitting their all-time peaks on launch day or the weekend following launch when more people are off work, but this game's popularity has only been ramping up. And the funny thing is, Marathon, an extraction shooter developed by Bungie, a once beloved indie studio turned AAA darling that captured the hearts of many millennials thanks to Halo, is also developing an extraction shooter which was panned as being soulless and directionless. They had betas like a week apart, and the difference in reception could not have been more stark. People expected Bungie to deliver that so-called Bungie magic and make a game that brought the extraction shooter to the mainstream, only for the game's beta to be met with an extremely cold reception. People said that it was underbaked and had no hook, and questioned who the hell this game was even for. It was truly directionless, a game that was made to chase trends rather than to make a game that they actually cared about making. A game that they would want to play themselves. Again, it's a perfect allegory for modern AAA. They chase trends trying to capture the next Fortnite, but games are art and are made with passion. Old Bungie knew this better than anyone. Their motto literally used to be, "We make games we want to play." Now that motto is some corporate slop, "We make games that inspire friendship." The irony is, Embark Studios with Arc Raiders made the game they wanted to play. They even delayed said game because they felt it was not fun enough to play. It was originally supposed to be PvE only, but they made it PvEVP, and the balance is just right. I played the Server Slam weekend, and oh my god, that gameplay loop is addicting. The balance really seems to be on point. The PvE enemies are no pushover, and they can mess you up. Every journey to the surface has tension to it, and every time you're able to extract, it feels fun and rewarding. No game feels like a waste of time. You're always making progress in some way. Even if you die, you at least learn something on that run. It's just a great game and very fun and replayable. And the audio design is some of the best I've ever heard from any game. Marathon was set to release in September, so before Arc Raiders, but shortly after the terrible beta feedback, there was also an art theft controversy that dubbed the game Art Raiders. Again, it's perfect symbolism for modern AAA gaming. They try and chase trends and steal ideas from the true creatives, those being the indie studios and the people who still care about the art of making video games, just to make a quick buck. The product is not their first priority. Money is. They're asking, what game can we make to make the most money? It has to be live service, has to be something that the market isn't saturated in. Oh, I know, let's do an extraction shooter, but we'll forget to add all the parts that make extraction shooters fun, like proximity chat. The leaders of these studios are just embarrassingly out of touch, but thankfully, the consumer is starting to wise up to this fact. Call of Duty had its worst launch in many years, shortly after being bought up by Microsoft, which is a $4 trillion company who couldn't give less of a shit about making video games. This was the first time I felt hopeful about this capitalist hellscape in a long time. COD thought they were too big to fail, and while I wouldn't call the sales numbers a complete failure, a trend in the downward direction is definitely a positive sign. Meanwhile, you have indie games hitting player counts that have not really been seen before, at least not at this frequency. Hell, Hollow Knight, an 8-year-old game, also hit a peak player count record this year just in anticipation of Silksong. And I too was one of those people. I sadly have been sleeping on indies for too long, but this year opened my eyes, as well as many others, to just how damn good these games are now. You can feel the passion in every game. They truly care about the art that they are making, and they are putting the most important thing first, the player experience. They understand why gamers play games, something that AAA studios have been lost on for quite some time. Live service games have really been a plague on the industry. They just say they'll fix it later and then never do. And what do they care? When you buy an unfinished game on launch, they still have your money. And honestly, that's all these execs care about. But indies, they know they have to make a complete game on launch or it will never be played and they'll be out of a job. Another massive advantage these indie studios have is agility. A 3-person team like Team Cherry, sure they have a massive amount of work to do individually, but all those people are on the same page and know every feature that is going into the game. And if something doesn't work, they can fix it immediately. They don't have to go through layers and layers of middle management and meetings and emails and approval processes and whatever else. If something isn't fitting with the design of the game, they can just axe it. Conversely, they can also add cool features in a heartbeat. In a small indie studio, all the people are on the same page and know every feature that's going into the game, the story beats, the bosses, the level design. I'm sure it is similar at Sandfall Interactive, who have about 33 people on their staff. These AAA studios often employ thousands of people, so it's no wonder these games often feel so bloated and disjointed. Where with indie games, the game has a solid core identity. Sure, maybe that identity isn't suited to everyone, but that's fine. The people who do enjoy it more because it delivers a very focused, cohesive experience from start to finish. AAA games just try to jam in tons of elements that don't go together just because they're trying to appeal to the biggest audience possible. Oh, gotta have an open world. Oh, we need a good progression system. Meanwhile, that system interferes with a completely different system in the game that the developers working on progression have no idea about. It results in a Frankenstein-like game with no true sense of what it is trying to be. Look at the latest Call of Duty campaign with Black Ops 7. First off, it's AI slop, but even the story, it's just trying to rehash characters that were popular 15 years ago, trying to nostalgia bait an audience that yearns for the glory days of COD, but they have no new original ideas. They just have to keep reusing the same old characters and not deliver anything new. No new story that's actually worth telling. You know, what people used to write books for or make video games about. Instead, they're just trying to crap out a story as quick as possible so they can meet their November release schedule to appease the almighty shareholders. Revenue targets, KPIs, and earnings report is what AAA studios are all about now, where with indie studios, it's still about the art of making something cool. Last year, the head of Larian Studios, Sven Winka, got to give a speech before handing out Game of the Year, and everything he said has aged perfectly. The man is truly prophetic.
So it turns out that not only will I be the one who will know as first which game wins tonight, but I actually also know which game is going to win next year, the year after, and the year after. Now, how do I know this? Well, an oracle told me. She said, change is coming. It's a modern oracle, so they made me sign an NDA, but I trust all of you. I know you can keep a secret, you will never leak it. The oracle told me that the Game of the Year 2025 was going to be made by a studio who found the formula to make it up here on stage. It's stupidly simple, but somehow it keeps on getting lost. Studio made their game because they wanted to make a game that they wanted to play themselves. They created it because it hadn't been created before. They didn't make it to increase market share. They didn't make it to serve as a brand. They didn't have to meet arbitrary sales targets or fear being laid off if they didn't meet those targets. And furthermore, the people in charge forbade them from cramming the game with anything whose only purpose was to increase revenue and didn't serve the game design. They didn't treat their developers like numbers on a spreadsheet. They didn't treat their players as users to exploit. And they didn't make decisions they knew were short-sighted in function of a bonus or politics. They knew that if you put the game and the team first, the revenue will follow. They were driven by idealism and wanted players to have fun. And they realized that if the developers didn't have fun, nobody was going to have any fun. They understood the value of respect, that if they treated their developers and players well, those same developers and players would forgive them when things didn't go as planned. But above all, they cared about their game because they loved games. It's really that simple, said the Oracle.
Honestly, I get goosebumps whenever I hear that speech, so let's break it down a bit, shall we? First, early on, he says change is coming. I truly think he's correct here. Sure, Microsoft has more money than God, but they still lay off developers in hopes that AI can replace them. The reality with modern AAA is that these games are becoming extremely expensive to produce. Call of Duty often costs between $450 to $700 million to make, and that is just the development budget, so it doesn't include things like marketing. And I don't know if you've seen an ad on TV lately, but they have Terry Crews and other famous people in all these commercials. They're often on Doritos packages and other junk food, so I'm thinking that marketing budget is pretty huge as well. Again, sure, Microsoft can afford this, but they don't want to just be pissing money away. Spider-Man 2 cost around $315 million to make, but at least that game sold decently well. Concord was reportedly a $400 million disaster for Sony. So you have these incredibly inflated development budgets now and way longer timelines than ever before. So if you miss on a game now, it's not only a massive monetary loss, but also a huge time sink. So your bet has to pay off. Because of this, AAA is scared to do anything unique or innovative. They have to play it safe or else they're out of a job, as are countless developers, where indie studios have a lot less at stake. Sure, it is still awful if you pour your time and money into a game and it doesn't pay off as an indie studio, but the risk is at least a little less. So they can make cool and unique things. In all media now, we have so little new IP. We are rehashing Star Wars over and over. We're on to Stranger Things Season 5. Marvel movies were fun for the first, 5 years, and now they're just milking it for all it's worth. Very little is new, so now when we do get something new, we're like bees to honey. Look at all the love for Hollow Knight and Silksong, all the cosplay and figurines. Same goes with Claire Obscure Expedition 33. People were so into those characters. People are desperate for new original ideas, and indie games are delivering that. As Sven said, they created it because it hadn't been created before. These people want to deliver new, unseen things to an audience that will hopefully enjoy their vision. And back to the timeline thing real quick, I love the God of War games. They came out when I was a kid and I was absolutely hooked. I've played them all and I think they're amazing. But we got God of War 1 to 3 from 2005 to 2010. Games like Uncharted, we got 1 to 3 from 2007 to 2011. GTA, you had the first couple top-down ones in 1997 and 99, but when they switched to on-the-ground third-person, we got GTA 3 in 2001, Vice City in 2002, San Andreas in 2004, a few spin-offs, and finally GTA 4 in 2008. To get GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas in a 3-year time span is ridiculous. And we all know about the wait for GTA 6. We'll be lucky to see it by the end of 2026, which, if it comes out in November 26, that'll be a 13-year gap from GTA 5. Rockstar, again, more money than God, and yet they're still out here union busting and sacking workers trying to fight for employee rights. Like, what the fuck, man? What are we doing? And again, Sven talks about that, about not having to meet arbitrary sales figures and having to fear job layoffs. They're just making something that they want to make. And then later he goes on to talk about not cramming things in to increase revenue, but that doesn't serve the game design. How many games have been ruined by microtransactions? And even if you say, herder, just don't buy them, it still affects the game design. Your experience is often throttled so that you'll hopefully buy XP packs. So now some dad playing Battlefield 6 will never unlock all the weapon attachments for his favorite gun because he gets maybe an hour a night to play if he's lucky, and the progression system is painfully slow. Or in Destiny 2, it used to be that you would earn cool cosmetics for completing hard shit in the video game, a way to flex to others that says, hey, you did something super hard. Now it just shows, hey, you swiped your credit card. Good for you, man. I could go on for hours with examples, but you get the point. But in indie titles, the focus is purely on the love of the game, for making it as fun of an experience as possible. It's funny, sure Call of Duty sells well, but it's never even in the conversation at any of these Game Award shows. Nor should it be. It is simply a cash cow to milk its player base and make the executives and shareholders more money, all at the cost of those same developers. And now they're cramming AI-generated calling cards into the game to save a buck. Just truly the worst franchise out there. Whereas by contrast, you have a game like Hollow Knight Silksong, where every level and boss is meticulously designed with love and care. Unique bosses and beautiful level design. The game is honestly a work of art, as are many others that I mentioned in this video and many more that I did not. There are so many indie titles worthy of our attention, and I'm so happy that 2025 has really been the year to prove that, and I think the future is looking very bright for the indie and AA scene, and that makes me very happy. Anyways, that's it for the video. Like it if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more. Follow me on Twitch at itssizzle7 where you can see me play a ton of games that I'm interested in. I'm really trying to work on my massive backlog of indie games that I've been missing out on. It's just so much fun. Lastly, if you're still here, thanks so much for watching to the end. Let me know your thoughts on indie versus AAA down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.